Welcome, traveler. Tonight, allow your thoughts to drift far beyond the presenter, little farther than memory, a little deeper than history. Breathe gently, slow and calm, and imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast, ancient world. Here, time does not hurry. Here, stories are not told in ink and paper, but in the quiet patterns of land and sky. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a boundless land, stretching from the frozen northern forests to the soft golden plains that ripple beneath eternal winds. This was once said to be the heart of Tartaria, great region, often whispered of in forgotten manuscripts, drawn on old maps, and later vanished from historical records as if it had been erased by a gentle hand. No one today speaks its name in classrooms. No monument claims its heritage. No nation holds its banner. And yet, fragments remains, small echoes hidden in quiet libraries and travelers' tales. But before this land became a mystery, before the maps faded, Tartaria began like all great civilizations with people, simple, curious, resilient people. Imagine yourself walking across an open steppe under a sky so wide it makes you feel as though you are standing at the edge of creation itself. The wind brushes past you like an ancient song. To the east rise silver-blue mountains, silent and watchful. To the west stretch flat plains where herds of horses run wild. Rivers wind like shining threads, connecting the land the way stories connect generations. In this place, the early people of Tartaria lived in harmony with nature long before kingdoms and borders existed. They traveled with the seasons, following rivers, stars, and migrations of animals. They built homes from timber and earth, shelters that grew from the land rather than standing against it. Each village formed a circle, a symbol that represented unity and the cycle of life. Night after night, they gathered beneath the stars, not in fear of the dark, but in respect for its mystery. To them, the sky was more than a sea of light. Sit was a language. Constellations were not mere shapes, but guides that led travelers home. The early Tartarians believed each person walked under a star, a silent companion that watched over their path. The people here did not rush. Life moved with quiet intention, balanced between work, family, and ritual. You can almost hear their daily rhythm now, if you listen. At dawn, the first smoke would rise from the center of each settlement as families prepared bread baked in stone ovens. Shepherds led flocks to graze. Women wove cloth from wool, using patterns passed down from mother to daughter. Children helped their elders gather herbs, roots, and berries, learning which plants could heal and which should never be touched. Music was not a luxury, but a language of its own. A soft flute carved from bone could be heard at sunset. Drums made from stretched hide set the rhythm of celebration. Songs rarely had a single owner. They were woven by the voices of many, shaped over generations, much like the culture itself. Trade with neighboring tribes began early in their history. They exchanged obsidian tools, woven garments, pottery, and salt harvested from shining lakes. But the most treasured trade was not material. It was knowledge stories, songs, and wisdom freely shared like gifts. The Tartarians believed that everything had spirit: mountains, rivers, trees, even the wind. They did not see themselves as rulers of the land, but as its keepers. Nature gave them life, and they gave respect in return. Religion was not a single system, but a living practice. Elders served as keepers of wisdom guides rather than rulers. Ceremonies honored the seasons: spring for renewal, summer for abundance, autumn for gratitude. and winter for reflection. There were no grand temples, only sacred spaces beneath old trees, beside rivers, or on mountaintops where the earth seemed closest to the heavens. One belief thread remained strong through all generations. The world is connected. They believed events did not happen by chance, but flowed within a greater harmony. Even the stars moved with purpose. As generations passed, the Tartarians developed a system of symbols, elegant, geometric designs that represented ideas rather than words. Spirals symbolized time, circles stood for unity, triangles pointed toward the sacred peaks of mountains. These symbols appeared in their art, garments, carved stones, and even in the homes they built. The earliest Tartarian artisans began engraving complex star maps onto bone and stone. One such artifact, known today only in whispers, depicted constellations with a precision that puzzled scholars centuries later. Some say it must have been the work of advanced astronomers. Others believe it was simply a reflection of deep observation passed down across generations. But perhaps the most mysterious symbols were those carved into what researchers now call megalithic, marker stall standing stones, arranged in deliberate patterns across plains and mountain valleys. Their purpose remains unknown. Some believe they marked seasons. Others think they aligned with star paths. All who visit them describe the same sensation, quiet stillness, as if time pauses in their presence. It is often assumed that the Tartarians were only nomadic, yet hidden evidence suggests otherwise. Archaeologists have found signs of early settlements with complex planning, irrigation systems, communal granaries, workshops, and ceremonial platforms. These were not the work of wanderers alone. These were the foundations of civilization. Their first great settlement rose along a river whose name is long forgotten. Homes were built in concentric circles around a central meeting hall. Streets flowed outward like the spokes of a wheel. The city had no walls, not because they lacked the skill to build them, but because they saw no need to separate themselves from the land that gave them life. Their engineers began experimenting with clay and brick, creating layered architecture that resisted harsh winds and heavy snow. Structures were stable, warm, and strong-built to withstand generations. Their builders learned to anchor foundations with interlocking stone, a technique remarkably similar to ancient architecture found in faraway lands. Though little remains of the Tartarian language, what survives paints a picture of poetic expression. Instead of saying the sun rose, they might say light awakened the sleeping sky. Instead of saying life is short, they would speak gently. We travel only once across this sky. Their language was rich in metaphor, and perhaps that is why historians later misunderstood their legacy. Many stories they left behind were dismissed as myth, when in truth they were histories written in lyrical form. Stories told of ancestors who came from the mountains in ages long forgotten, guided by celestial signs. Some tales spoke of a great teacher who taught them to read the stars. Others described a land before snow, before rivers froze, before the great winds brought change. As centuries passed, the Tartarians became known not for conquest or domination, but for wisdom, artistry, and resilience. They believed greatness was not declared with loudness, but demonstrated in harmony with nature, with others, with oneself. They did not build empires through force. Instead, they built relationships through trade, shared knowledge, and cultural exchange. Travelers came from distant lands, not out of fear, but curiosity, and slowly their ideas traveled far beyond their homeland. Yet this golden beginning would not last forever. The world was changing. Other powers would rise, paths would cross, worlds would collide, and Tartaria would soon encounter forces beyond its mountains and plains. But that is a story for another night. Let your mind rest gently with this thought. Before forgotten empires, before vanished maps, before stories were rewritten, there were people who lived simply, wisely, and beautifully. People who believed that the world was a vast and sacred place. Next time, we will follow the rise of Tartaria through its classical period, when this peaceful culture began to build something extraordinary: cities of learning, observatories of stone, and inventions that defied time. Until then, rest easy. History is a river we will follow together, one calm evening at a time. Imagine yourself returning to the same sweeping landscape as before, the boundless plains of Tartaria, where the horizon always seems just beyond your touch. But now, something has changed. Where once stood simple settlements and clustered homes of timber and earth, now stand graceful stone structures and well-planned communities. A soft hum of life fills the air craftsmen at their work, scholars discussing ideas, and travelers passing along dusty trade routes. You have stepped into what historians might call the classical period of Tartarian era, when the people of this forgotten land began to flourish. Their wisdom deepened, their architecture reached new heights, and their society embraced knowledge, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. The seeds planted in their ancient past now bloomed into something extraordinary. Walk with me through one of their great cities, Ardosh, a center of learning and trade, located along a wide, gentle river. Like many Tartarian cities, it was built not to dominate the land, but to blend with it. Buildings followed the curves of the riverbank. Stone bridges arched like crescents over flowing water. Homes were constructed using a fusion of techniques: interlocking stone at the base, wood layered above, then finished with smooth clay that cooled the interior during the summer months. At the city's heart stood a grand structure, not quite a palace and not quite a temple. It was called the House of Wisdom, a place where scholars, artisans, storytellers, and travelers gathered to share ideas. There were no walls of division here. Learning was open to all who sought it: elders, farmers, blacksmiths, healers, and children alike. Inside, you would find wide chambers lined with scrolls, clay tablets, and carved wooden boards inscribed with ancient symbols. They were written not in a single language, but in many, evidence of Tartaria's growing connections with distant lands. There were scholars here studying the alignment of stars, the structure of plants, healing herbs, and the mysteries of sound and vibration. To them, the universe was a grand conversation, and they wished to understand its language. In this era, Tartaria became known not only for its great vision, but also for the quality and creativity of its craftsmanship. Their artisans developed methods of working with metal that are still admired in modern times. From copper and bronze, they created elegant tools and instruments. Later, they learned the secrets of forging steel techniques that would one day travel far across continents, influencing distant civilizations. But what made Tartarian craftsmanship special was not only precision, it was purpose. Tools were not simply functional, they were beautiful. Patterns were carved into handles, spirals traced along blades, and symbols etched along metal surfaces. Every object carried meaning. Every piece of craft spoke quietly of tradition and art. Their builders experimented with new architectural formstones, circular chambers, acoustic halls where sound carried without echo. Some structures even showed signs of sophisticated knowledge of resonance and magnetism, suggesting that the Tartarians were exploring natural forces long before such studies were recorded in other parts of the world. Language evolved while earlier generations used symbols to convey simple ideas. This classical period witnessed the emergence of a complete system of writing unique to Tartaria. It flowed in sweeping lines and gentle angles, a graceful combination of curves and order, almost musical in appearance. This script was used to write poetry, preserve laws, keep records of trade, and explore philosophy. Yet many of its meanings remain undeciphered by modern scholars. Some believe it encoded both language and energy, perhaps even serving as a form of sacred geometry. One surviving fragment, translated only in part, reads, "We are but travelers beneath the skies. We build not for power, but for harmony, and in harmony the universe reveals itself." These lines reflect a central belief in Tartarian society. Knowledge is sacred only if used with wisdom and purpose. Religion during this period grew deeper, though still rooted in nature. Tartarians believed in a universal energy that flowed through all beings, an unseen force connecting the earth, sky, and human soul. They did not worship idols or fear distant gods. Instead, they honored the balance between thought and emotion, work and rest, progress and tradition. Many practiced gentle forms of meditation, breathing in rhythm with nature. It was believed that clarity of thought could only come from a peaceful mind. In quiet mountain sanctuaries, spiritual guides, called the Silent Keepers, lived lives devoted to contemplation and teaching. They welcomed all who sought truth not as leaders, but as gentle companions on the path of learning. Family life in Tartaria was simple but strong. Each generation was honored, and elders were cherished as living libraries of wisdom. Children grew up surrounded by music, stories, and practical learning. They were encouraged not to compete, but to cooperate. After all, society thrived only when each person discovered their purpose. Meals were shared communally, and festivals were frequent. They gathered not only to mark seasons, but also to celebrate learning, craftsmanship, and the wonders of the world. There were star festivals to honor astronomy, harmony festivals to celebrate peace, and river festivals to honor nature's gift of life. With time, Tartaria became a magnetic crossroads between East and West. Traders from faraway lands traveled across wide plains and mountain passes to reach Tartarian cities. Caravans brought silk, spices, pottery, wool, and carved stone from distant regions. In return, Tartarians shared their engineering methods, metalwork, star charts, and musical instruments. They built long wooden caravans called wind wagons that were said to glide faster than ordinary carts, using enormous cloth sails to harness the power of the wind across the plains. Their influence spread quietly, but steadily, like the gentle, widening rings of water formed by a single stone dropped into a still lake. It would be easy to call this period a golden age. Life seemed peaceful, meaningful, full of progress. Their society valued wisdom over wealth, cooperation over control. The arts flourished, philosophy deepened, knowledge expanded like a sunrise, gently filling the sky. But every sunrise carries a shadow. For as Tartaria grew, so did the world around it. Distant powers rose. Empires expanded their reach. the winds of change began to stir across the land. New cultures looked upon Tartaria not as a friend to share knowledge with, but as a land to explore, to influence, perhaps even to claim. A question whispered slowly through the house of wisdom: how long can harmony survive in a world that does not always value peace? As you pause here at the end of this chapter, imagine once more the streets of Ardosh at twilight. Lanterns glow softly along the river. Music drifts through the evening air. Children laugh as elders tell gentle stories of constellations and guiding stars. This was Tartaria at its height, graceful, wise, and deeply human. For now, let your thoughts drift in peace. History is patient, and there is more to discover one calm night at a time. Imagine yourself standing once more upon the open steppe, beneath a sky painted in soft silver clouds. A gentle breeze rushes across the land, as if carrying messages from distant horizons. You feel the rhythm of the earth, steady and ancient. But now you also notice something new: faint echoes of travelers approaching from afar. You have stepped into the age of foreign influence, a time when Tartaria began to reach beyond its familiar boundaries and connect with the wider world. This was not a sudden event, but a quiet unfolding, like a river gradually widening as it journeys toward the sea. In this era, Tartaria was not isolated. It was a crossroads, and the people, curious and thoughtful by nature, welcomed those who came with peaceful intentions. It was through these encounters that Tartaria would evolve, gaining new ideas, new challenges, and a broader view of its place in the story of the world. You stand in the marketplace of Ardosh, one of Tartaria's cultural centers. The marketplace does not shout for attention. It hums with gentle energy. Wooden stalls are filled with woven cloth, pottery with swirling symbols, tools of bronze and steel, baskets of herbs, and scrolls of knowledge. Across the river, caravans begin to arrive. Travelers from foreign lands step down from their wagons. Their clothing, language, and customs are unfamiliar, yet they are greeted not with suspicion, but with soft smiles and open hands. Tartarians believe that to welcome a traveler is to welcome a new possibility. From the west come merchants who bring colored glass and precious olive oils. From the east arrive scholars carrying fine silk and scrolls filled with ancient philosophy. From the south come explorers from mountain kingdoms who bring stones carved with strange, beautiful symbols. From the north travel sailors who speak of seas filled with floating ice and glowing lights in the night sky. These visitors share more than goods. They bring stories, and stories are treasures in Tartaria. Trade was not simply economic, it was intellectual. In the House of Wisdom, scholars from many lands gathered. They met not as rivals, but as companions seeking understanding. Imagine yourself inside the house now. You walk along stone halls lined with torches and hear voices gently echoing through chambers. In one room, Tartarian astronomers study the movements of the stars with foreign scholars. In another, healers exchange herbal remedies from different regions. A musician from far away plays a stringed instrument unlike any seen before, and Tartarian craftsmen gather to study its construction. A meeting is taking place in the main hall. People sit in a circle, discussing a question written on a wooden board. What connects all life? No one argues. No one declares a single answer. They listen, reflect, and share. The conversation flows like a river that invites many streams. This was the Tartarian way. They believed truth was not a single stone, but a mosaic built, piece by piece, through shared wisdom. With so many cultures meeting and exchanging ideas, a challenge emerged: communication. Instead of imposing their own language, the Tartarians did something remarkable. They created a shared language of symbols. This bridge script became a universal writing system used for trade and knowledge exchange. It was simple, graceful, and flexible, built from shapes representing ideas rather than sounds. A straight line symbolized journey. A circle represented unity. A spiral meant growth or evolution. Two lines crossing spoke of meeting or exchange. This writing was soon carved onto tablets, painted onto trade goods, and used in diplomatic messages. It spread far beyond Tartaria, traveling with merchants and explorers, enabling communication between people who had never met before. Through symbols, Tartaria built bridges between worlds. The spiritual traditions of Tartaria did not fade in this era, they expanded. Tartarian philosophers welcomed foreign teachings, not as threats, but as additional reflections of universal truth. Some travelers spoke of a cosmic order that governed the stars. Others shared beliefs in sacred cycles of nature, or in spiritual teachers who brought wisdom to humanity. Tartarian elders listened carefully, incorporating new teachings into their gentle philosophy of balance. Meditation circles grew. People gathered beneath sacred trees or atop quiet hills to share silent reflection. Rituals became simpler, more focused on gratitude and connection. The idea spread that every path to wisdom, no matter its origin, was like a river flowing toward the same great sea. Walk now through a Tartarian festival. The air is filled with music flutes, stringed instruments, and gentle drums. Lanterns sway in the evening breeze. Dancers move in sweeping circles, wearing garments woven with intricate patterns, combining Tartarian symbols and foreign designs. Children listen to a storyteller who speaks of heroes from distant lands, but also of simple people who found greatness in quiet acts of courage. Meals are shared spiced stews from the south, rice dishes from the east, bread from the west, fruits from the northern forests. Cultures blend at the table as easily as they do in conversation. But amid all this change, one tradition remains: constant gratitude. Every gathering begins with a moment of silence to honor the land, the river, the sky, and the bonds between all living things. Yet even in this peaceful era, subtle challenges began to appear. Not every visitor arrived with a spirit of friendship. Some envoys came with intentions of influence, or ambition disguised as diplomacy. Some foreign powers observed Tartaria, not with admiration, but curiosity, wondering what could be gained from this vast, resourceful land. Tartarian leaders, wise and perceptive, noticed these early signs. They responded not with hostility, but with gentle caution. They strengthened cultural bonds, reinforced education, and encouraged unity. Their greatest shield was not an army, but wisdom. The most respected voice of this time belonged to Illyrian the Elder, a philosopher known for his calm insight. He once said, "A tree that bends with the wind does not break. A people who listen with wisdom do not fall to fear, but a door that opens must know when to close as well." Though Tartaria remained open to the world, it learned the importance of protecting its heart, its values, its identity, and the harmony it cherished. The shift in the winds. Years passed, trade grew, culture expanded, but slowly, gently, the world began to change. Foreign powers formed alliances, built fleets, and raised new ambitions. Whispered rumors spoke of empires rising in the west, preparing expeditions into the unknown lands of the east. And as these distant forces grew stronger, Tartaria began to sense a subtle shift in the winds, a feeling that the peaceful balance might soon be tested. The era of gentle growth and exchange was nearing its peak. Ahead lay challenges that would shape the destiny of Tartaria forever. Stand now beneath the evening sky of Tartaria. Watch the lanterns floating along the river as they drift into the night. Listen to the quiet laughter of families and travelers sitting together around shared meals. Feel the warmth of a civilization that believed in learning, peace, and unity. This was Tartaria, open to the world, yet rooted in wisdom. But soon, the outside world would not simply visit Tartaria. It would press against it, seeking its secrets, its resources, and perhaps more. Until then, may your thoughts settle gently like evening mist. Every story unfolds in patience, and there is much more to discover, one peaceful night at a time. Imagine yourself standing once more upon the vast Tartarian plains, the horizon stretching endlessly before you. The wind brushes softly across your face, carrying the scent of earth and river water warmed by the morning sun. The land feels alive, not with tension or conflict, but with a quiet pulsar rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of its people. You can sense it. This is a time of flourishing, of achievement, of reaching ever higher. You have arrived in the era of growth, a period when Tartaria's cities, technologies, and ideas blossomed like the first flowers of spring. The foundations laid in earlier generations, simple villages, careful observation of nature. A love for knowledge now grew into remarkable innovations and achievements that stretched across the land and even touched distant horizons. Imagine walking through one of the largest Tartarian cities, Velmara, where the air hums softly with activity. Streets curve gracefully like flowing rivers, lined with workshops, libraries, and observatories. Craftsmen hammer and shape metal, but always with a sense of elegance and purpose. Stone and wood structures rise with curves and arches designed to channel wind, light, and sound in ways both practical and beautiful. You pause at a workshop where artisans are creating intricate tools and instruments. Copper and bronze shine softly in the gentle light. Some of these tools are practically used for farming, construction, or measurement. Others seem almost magical, astrolabes and compasses designed to track the movements of the stars. Water clocks that keep precise time, and delicate mechanical devices that record patterns of the wind and the river's flow. The Tartarians were careful observers of the natural world, believing that the universe itself spoke through patterns. Their technology grew not for power or conquest, but for understanding tools to help them live more harmoniously with their surroundings and to explore the mysteries of existence. As technology advanced, so too did trade and commerce. Imagine yourself walking along the wide central avenue of Velmara, where merchants display goods collected from every corner of Tartaria and beyond. Spices from distant mountains scent the air. Fabrics dyed in soft, vibrant colors ripple gently in the breeze. Pottery engraved with intricate symbols reflects sunlight like small mirrors. Wooden wagons arrive, carrying herbs, grains, and rare minerals from far-off valleys. Trade networks expanded, connecting Tartarian cities across the plains, and even with lands far beyond, caravans followed winding routes, guided by stars and maps drawn in precise symbols. The flow of goods was accompanied by a flow of ideas. Every exchange brought a new understanding of architecture, music, farming techniques, and medicine. Wealth increased quietly, not through competition, but through cooperation, sharing, and mutual respect. You notice how the markets are alive, yet calm. There is no rush, no loud bargaining. Transactions are measured, deliberate, and respectful. Even children learn the art of exchange not for greed, but for understanding value and fairness. Now imagine walking through the heart of Velmara, where buildings rise like gentle waves of stone and wood. Tartarian architects of this era experimented with scale, symmetry, and harmony. Large halls are built for gathering knowledge, observing the sky, and celebrating seasonal festivals. Domes curve gracefully above open courtyards, allowing sunlight and wind to enter freely. Bridges span rivers with elegance, their arches perfectly balanced, making them both functional and beautiful. Every structure carries meaning. Patterns are etched into walls, not merely for decoration, but as symbols of cosmic principles. Spirals for the passage of time, circles for unity, triangles for balance. Even the simplest home reflects these values, with carefully aligned doors, windows, and hearths designed to maintain harmony with the environment. Imagine the soft sound of water flowing through canals that run beneath the streets, carrying life and freshness. Gardens bloom beside homes, arranged with care to balance aesthetics and practicality, producing fruits, herbs, and flowers that nourish both body and soul. In this era, Tartaria scholars began to explore the natural world with precision. Imagine stepping into an observatory on a gentle hill, where astronomers use newly refined instruments to watch the movement of stars and planets. They chart celestial patterns not only for navigation, but also as guides for agriculture and calendars. Tablets and scrolls line the walls, filled with observations, calculations, and thoughtful reflections. You walk next to a student, carefully measuring the flow of a river, recording the patterns of tides and rainfall. Nearby, another examines plants under sunlight, noting their growth cycles and properties. Learning is everywhere, out in the fields, in workshops, in libraries, and under the open sky. It is a culture where curiosity is cherished, and understanding the world is considered a noble pursuit. Now listen to the gentle sounds of a festival in a central plaza. Musicians play flutes, drums, and stringed instruments, blending Tartarian melodies with soft influences learned from travelers. Children dance, imitating the movements of adults in harmony with the music. Elders sit quietly, smiling as stories are told of stars, rivers, and ancestors who walked this land long before any city was built. Art and literature thrive alongside science and technology. Murals depict flowing landscapes, swirling skies, and human figures moving gracefully in the rhythms of daily life. Poetry captures the essence of the land, the rustle of grass, the shimmer of morning dew, the quiet song of rivers. These works are shared freely, their influence extending from city to city, from one generation to the next. Imagine standing among the people of Velmara, observing their daily life. Families gather in courtyards, elders teach children, artisans share techniques, scholars exchange knowledge. Everyone contributes to society according to their skills and passions. Tartarians value cooperation and mutual respect, understanding that the well-being of each person strengthens the community as a whole. Even in moments of challenge, harsh winters, unexpected storms, or shortages of resources, the people face difficulties with calm resolve. Their approach is thoughtful, measured, and compassionate. Solutions are sought not in haste, but in wisdom. And through this care, society grows stronger, more resilient, and more unified. The silent guardians of knowledge. A special role is held by those known as the keepers of the flow. Imagine walking quietly beside them as they move through the city, gently recording observations of nature, technology, and culture. They preserve knowledge of the stars, the land, the people, and the wisdom of ancestors. Their work is subtle yet profound. Without fanfare, they ensure that every insight, every invention, and every story is remembered and passed on. Through these guardians, Tartaria builds a legacy that reaches beyond time itself, foundation for generations yet to come. Stand once more upon the plains as the sun begins to sink toward the horizon. The wind moves softly through the grass, carrying the scent of earth, flowers, and stone. Listen to the distant laughter of children, the gentle song of a musician, and the quiet hum of the city, alive with knowledge and purpose. This is Tartaria at its height of civilization, reaching gracefully toward the stars, flourishing in technology, culture, and wisdom. They grow not for conquest, but for understanding. They build not for power, but for harmony. Yet even in this calm, golden period, the winds of change stir quietly at the edges of their world. New challenges, new interactions, and new mysteries are approaching. Their journey is far from over. Let the knowledge of their harmony settle softly in your thoughts, like the quiet rustle of grass beneath a twilight sky. Imagine yourself standing once more on the wide, gentle plains of Tartaria. The sun rises softly behind distant mountains, casting a warm, golden glow over rivers and fields. You notice a subtle difference from previous days. The air feels a little heavier, the rhythm of life a little slower, yet the land remains beautiful and full of potential. You have arrived in a period known as the time of Cressissa, chapter of quiet trials, gentle challenges, and subtle tests for the people of Tartaria. In this era, Tartaria was still prosperous, still wise, but change was beginning to ripple across the land. The world beyond their borders grew more connected, bringing new opportunities, new pressures. The people of Tartaria faced difficulties, not with violence or aggression, but with thoughtful resilience, creativity, and unity. Imagine walking along a path that winds through the fields toward a village on the riverbank. Crops have grown, but the patterns are irregular. The rains have been unpredictable. Farmers and families speak quietly of shorter growing seasons, of rivers that sometimes flow slower, or of soil that is harder to cultivate. You notice the concern on their faces, yet there is no panic, only careful discussion and steady action. At the same time, trade across the plains becomes less predictable. Some caravans are delayed. Routes that once carried silk, spices, and precious metals now face natural obstacles, sudden storms, shifting river paths, and landslides in mountain passes. Merchants meet in the marketplaces to share information, adjust plans, and find new ways to continue their journeys. This is the first lesson of the crisis. Even in a world as harmonious as Tartaria, nature and circumstance can create challenges. But Tartaria has a tradition of thoughtful preparation and gentle adaptation. Their response is deliberate and measured, guided by experience and wisdom. Step inside the House of Wisdom, the great center of learning in Velmara. Scholars and thinkers gather in quiet discussions. They study changes in weather, river flow, and crop yield. They examine new technologies for irrigation and tools that can help the land recover. You see students mapping the stars to predict seasonal patterns and elders recording observations in detailed tablets. The scholars do not panic. Instead, they remind each other and all who will listen that knowledge is the most reliable guide through uncertainty. Lessons from generations past are collected, compared, and refined. In their calm persistence, the Tartarians transform challenge into opportunity. A problem becomes a question to study, a mystery to observe, a chance to learn. Now, imagine walking through a village courtyard. Families gather around small fires in the evening. Conversations are gentle but purposeful. Elders teach younger members about crop rotation, water conservation, and maintaining soil health. Artisans and builders share techniques to repair homes and communal buildings weakened by storms. Healers provide guidance on diet, rest, and herbal remedies to strengthen the body and mind. Even children contribute. They collect seeds, help tend gardens, and assist in building small channels to guide water. The younger generation learns resilience, not as an abstract lesson, but as a living practice. Every member of the community plays a part in maintaining harmony. Imagine observing a council meeting in the central hall of Ardash. Leaders of villages and towns gather in a large circle, their voices calm and thoughtful. They discuss weather patterns, trade disruptions, and resource allocation. There is no urgency or shouting. Each voice is heard, each idea considered. Decisions are made slowly, deliberately, and collectively. Leadership in Tartaria is not about command, but guidance. Leaders listen, weigh the evidence, and act in accordance with the values of wisdom, cooperation, and balance. In the face of crisis, their greatest strength is their ability to maintain calm, inspire confidence, and help communities work together. Step now into a workshop where artisans experiment with new tools. Simple devices are adjusted to improve efficiency in farming, construction, and transportation. Stone channels are built to guide water to fields more effectively. New methods of storing grain and preserving food are developed. Mechanics create devices that can measure rainfall and monitor river levels. Even in times of challenge, Tartaria's culture of curiosity and ingenuity remains vibrant. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity for learning. The people understand that adversity is part of life, and growth often comes from careful observation and thoughtful experimentation. Walk into a serene courtyard during the evening. The sky is painted with hues of orange and lavender. People gather quietly beneath the stars for reflection and meditation. Spiritual guides, called silent keepers, remind the community to honor patience, mindfulness, and inner balance. Festivals are simpler, yet full of meaning, celebrating the perseverance of life, the resilience of nature, and the strength found in unity. Stories are told in soft voices, recounting previous generations who faced difficulties with calm and wisdom. Music carries gentle melodies that mirror the rhythms of the land, the flow of water, and the movement of the wind. These cultural practices reinforce a sense of stability and continuity, helping Tartaria remain connected to its values during uncertain times. Imagine yourself walking along a quiet riverbank at sunset. The challenges of the era are present, yet they are not overwhelming. The land, the people, and the sky all seem to whisper a lesson. Resilience is found in patience. Wisdom is strengthened through observation. Harmony is maintained through cooperation. Growth is possible even in times of subtle difficulty. Tartaria's people learn that crises are not merely obstacles, they are opportunities to refine understanding, strengthen bonds, and deepen their connection to the land and one another. Picture a child planting seeds beside their family. They may not yet understand the full scope of the challenges facing Tartaria, but they feel the care, guidance, and wisdom of those around them. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the survival and flourishing of their community. Even in uncertain times, life continues gentle, persistent, and full of quiet hope. The era of crisis does not define Tartaria by loss or misfortune. Instead, it is remembered for the strength of its people, the wisdom of its leaders, and the resilience that grows from careful attention and thoughtful action. In this period, Tartaria demonstrates that the truest power is not conquest or dominance, but the ability to endure, adapt, and maintain harmony with the world. Stand now upon the plain as twilight settles. The river reflects the soft colors of the sky. Lanterns glow along streets and courtyards. Families gather for quiet meals. Artisans continue their work by gentle lamplight. And children listen to stories of ancestors who faced challenges with calm courage. Tartaria endures, not untouched by difficulty, but strengthened by it. The time of crisis teaches that even subtle trials can be met with wisdom, unity, and serenity. And as the stars emerge overhead, you feel a sense of quiet, hope, knowing that this remarkable civilization continues to shine through even the softest shadows. For now, let your mind rest gently on the lessons of resilience, harmony, and the enduring calm of Tartaria in this time of quiet challenge. Imagine yourself standing once more on the gentle plains of Tartaria, the horizon stretching far and wide, as it has for countless generations. The morning sun warms the earth, and the air carries a soft scent of dew and blooming herbs. Yet today, something is subtly different. The rhythm of life feels slightly quicker, as though Tartaria itself is awakening to new possibilities. You have arrived in the period of modernization, a time when the people of Tartaria began to blend their ancient wisdom with innovations that would carry them into the future. This era is not defined by sudden upheaval, but by gentle evolution. The people, guided by their long tradition of observation, curiosity, and harmony with nature, began to adopt new technologies, expand networks of knowledge, and explore methods to enhance daily life without disturbing the balance they cherished. Modernization in Tartaria was not a race toward. Power was a careful, deliberate journey toward understanding and improvement. Picture yourself walking through a workshop in Velmar, one of the major centers of innovation. Artisans, engineers, and scholars gather here, sharing tools and ideas. They experiment with water-driven mills to grind grain, creating devices that harness the flow of rivers to save time and energy. You notice clever mechanisms for lifting water to irrigate fields more efficiently, and intricate bridges that span rivers with both elegance and stability. In another section of the workshop, artisans experiment with new forms of metalworking. They refine techniques to forge stronger tools, delicate instruments, and even simple machines that assist in construction. The air is filled with a gentle rhythm, the soft tapping of hammers, the hum of spinning wheels, and the quiet conversations of people sharing discoveries. What makes Tartarian modernization remarkable is the careful balance they maintain. Technology is adopted not for dominance, but for harmony. Tools enhance life without overpowering it. Structures blend with the land, and machines are crafted with the same artistry as pottery or textiles. Imagine walking through the House of Wisdom, where scrolls, tablets, and diagrams line every wall. Scholars from across Tartaria gather here to study, teach, and record observations. They measure the movement of stars, chart the cycles of rivers, and explore the properties of plants and minerals. Lessons from foreign travelers are welcomed, examined, and adapted with discernment. Education spreads more broadly during this period. Children of all ages attend quiet learning circles, practicing reading, writing, and arithmetic, as well as music, art, and philosophy. Apprentices study under artisans, learning not only techniques, but also the underlying principles of beauty and purpose. Knowledge is shared generously because Tartaria has long understood that wisdom grows when it is multiplied and passed along. Step into a Tartarian city in this era, and you will notice streets that flow like gentle streams, canals that provide fresh water to homes and gardens, and bridges that rise elegantly over rivers. Cities are designed with careful attention to light, air, and sound. Courtyards open to the sky, offering spaces for reflection, conversation, and celebration. Public halls provide venues for gatherings of scholars, musicians, and storytellers. Even in modernization, Tartaria's builders remain faithful to the land. Structures are aligned with natural features, hills, rivers, and forest sand, designed to blend with, rather than dominate, the environment. This thoughtful planning ensures that growth does not come at the expense of harmony. Imagine yourself walking along the main avenue of a bustling city. Caravans from distant lands arrive with new goods, silks, rare minerals, spices, and exotic instruments. Tartarian merchants exchange not only material items, but also ideas, patterns, and knowledge. Trade routes stretch farther than ever before, connecting Tartaria to faraway civilizations without diminishing its own culture. Commerce in Tartaria during this era is characterized by fairness, clarity, and mutual respect. Transactions are calm and deliberate. You notice children observing, learning not only the value of goods, but also the importance of honesty, patience, and cooperation. These lessons, woven into everyday life, prepare the next generation to maintain both prosperity and harmony. The period of modernization brings a flowering of art, music, and literature. Imagine wandering through a plaza at twilight. Lanterns glow softly along the streets. Musicians play gentle melodies on stringed instruments and flutes. Painters create murals depicting stars, rivers, mountains, and the harmony of life. Poets compose verses that celebrate curiosity, exploration, and reflection. Even new innovations are celebrated as cultural achievements. Ingenious water systems, delicate machines, and architectural advancements are not only practical, they are considered works of art, symbols of Tartaria's belief that beauty and utility can coexist. In this way, modernization enhances the cultural richness of the people, not just their material comfort. You might wonder, with all this change, could Tartaria remain true to its values? Imagine standing beside a river as the sun sets, the air filled with soft song and gentle laughter. Even as new technologies arrive and new ideas spread, Tartaria retains its commitment to harmony, wisdom, and reflection. Leaders continue to guide communities with calm insight, valuing dialogue and collective decision-making. Spiritual practices remain central to life, reminding all that growth must be balanced with respect for nature, for neighbors, and for oneself. Even the youngest children learn that progress is most meaningful when it is gentle, deliberate, and considerate. During this era, Tartaria achieves remarkable advancements that extend far beyond its borders. Cities become centers of learning and culture. Innovations improve daily life, and knowledge spreads throughout the land. The people demonstrate that progress need not be hurried or aggressive. Instead, it can emerge from careful observation, cooperation, and thoughtful adaptation. You notice the quiet strength of this civilization. Unlike empires built on force, Tartaria's achievements are durable because they are rooted in understanding, respect, and continuity. Every invention, every city, every story reinforces the principles that have guided this people for centuries. As evening settles over the plains, imagine standing once more beneath the sky, watching stars emerge one by one. The rivers reflect their soft light, and the wind carries whispers of distant lands. Tartaria, in this period of modernization, is a place where tradition and innovation meet gracefully. The people thrive not by dominating their environment, but by understanding it. They grow not through conflict, but through careful, deliberate harmony. This is a civilization that balances progress with patience, knowledge with reflection, and growth with grace. And yet, the world beyond Tartaria continues to change, bringing new challenges and opportunities that will test both their wisdom and their unity. For now, allow your thoughts to drift gently along the rivers, through the streets of cities, and across the plains. The story of Tartaria continues, calm, enduring, and full of quiet wonder. Imagine yourself standing atop a gentle hill overlooking a vast Tartarian plain. The sun casts long, golden rays over rivers, forests, and the distant silhouettes of cities. You breathe in the crisp air, filled with the faint scent of earth, herbs, and water. The world feels expansive, filled with possibility, and as you look outward, you begin to understand a subtle truth. Tartaria, a civilization often unseen in distant lands, has quietly shaped the world far beyond its borders. You are stepping into the era when Tartaria's influence extends across continents, not through conquest, but through wisdom, trade, art, and the sharing of knowledge. The people of Tartaria have learned that the greatest impact is not made with force, but with careful thought, generosity, and connection. Imagine walking along a Tartarian trade route where the horizon stretches like a painted scroll. Caravans move steadily across plains and over hills, carrying goods that reflect both the land's richness and its ingenuity. There is fine silk woven with patterns inspired by stars, tools crafted with precision and artistry, and scrolls filled with knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and philosophy. Merchants from distant lands arrive at Tartarian cities, and local traders travel to foreign lands. Through these exchanges, ideas spread alongside goods. You see maps refined by Tartarian cartographers, now guiding travelers far beyond the plains. Musical instruments crafted in Tartaria are carried to distant kingdoms, influencing melodies and rhythms in ways both subtle and profound. Even architectural principles, such as harmony with nature, careful alignment of structures, and thoughtful use of light and space, begin to appear in cities thousands of miles away. In this way, Tartaria becomes a quiet bridge between worlds, a civilization whose influence is felt not in domination, but in inspiration. Imagine entering a lecture hall in a distant city where a scholar is teaching Tartarian philosophy. Their students are from lands far to the east, west, and south. They speak different languages, yet the ideas transcend words: the balance of nature, the importance of observation, the harmony between thought and action. Tartarian teachings encourage reflection rather than argument, understanding rather than control. They inspire travelers, artisans, and thinkers to approach life with mindfulness, curiosity, and respect. The subtle influence of these ideas spreads across continents quietly, like ripples in a calm lake, affecting politics, education, art, and daily life. Now imagine walking through a distant city where Tartarian innovations have left their mark. Bridges and canals echo the elegant designs of Tartarian engineers. Observatories follow principles first recorded in Valmara, allowing astronomers to study the heavens with clarity and precision. Artistic patterns, inspired by spirals, circles, and natural rhythms, decorate public spaces and homes alike. Even practical tools carry Tartarian influence. Farmers, builders, and artisans in faraway lands adopt techniques for irrigation, construction, and crafting that originated in the Tartarian plains. Knowledge travels not in haste, but through careful teaching, demonstration, and sharing. Step now into a council chamber in a city-state far from Tartaria. Envoys from the Tartarian plains arrive not to conquer, but to share guidance, trade knowledge, and build relationships. Their presence is calm and respectful. They listen carefully to local customs, offer assistance, and share lessons learned from centuries of observing harmony in both nature and society. Tartarian diplomacy is subtle but powerful. By valuing understanding over control, by sharing knowledge without demanding obedience, they create bonds of respect and trust that endure for generations. This is how a quiet civilization leaves a lasting mark, not through force, but through patience, wisdom, and generosity. Imagine standing in a temple far from Tartaria. The teachings of the Tartarian silent keepers have arrived here, woven into local traditions. People meditate beneath sacred trees, practice gratitude, and reflect on their connection to nature and one another. Rituals focus on mindfulness, balance, and cooperation, subtly shaping the ways communities understand harmony and well-being. Even in distant lands, Tartarian philosophy inspires art, music, and education, encouraging societies to pursue growth with care, reflection, and respect. Imagine a library filled with scrolls from Tartaria. Scholars from many lands study their contents: mathematics, astronomy, medicine, agriculture, and philosophy. Knowledge flows outward, quietly influencing generations of thinkers and inventors. No empire claims these ideas as its own. They exist as gifts, shared freely and carefully preserved. Tartaria's strength lies not in armies or conquest, but in the durability of its ideas. Knowledge, when shared with wisdom, travels further than any traveler, lasting far beyond the rise and fall of cities, seasons, and empires. As you walk along the plains once more, you notice Tartaria's people working in harmony with their environment, cultivating the land, building cities, studying stars, and creating music and art. They remain modest, yet confident in their knowledge. They understand the subtle power of their culture and its potential to influence the wider world, not through domination, but through thoughtful guidance and shared insight. This is the quiet triumph of Tartaria, a civilization whose contributions extend far beyond the borders of its plains, whose wisdom and achievements ripple gently across history, and whose people understand that true influence comes from patience, observation, and harmony. As evening falls, imagine standing beneath a sky sprinkled with stars. Rivers reflect the soft glow of lanterns in distant cities. You hear the quiet songs of families, the gentle rhythm of water flowing, and the soft hum of life continuing in harmony. Tartaria's influence can be felt across lands you may never see, carried in ideas, art, music, and knowledge. The story of Tartaria reminds us that civilizations do not need to shout to be heard. Their quiet actions, deliberate choices, and enduring wisdom leave marks that last through generations. Even in times of change and challenge, the values of patience, observation, and harmony guide them, shaping the world in subtle but profound ways. For now, allow your mind to rest gently upon the plains, the rivers, and the enduring wisdom of Tartaria's civilization that teaches the quiet power of harmony, reflection, and shared knowledge. Imagine yourself standing once more upon the gentle plains of Tartaria. The morning sun rises slowly, casting a soft golden light across rivers, forests, and the distant contours of cities. The air carries a delicate scent of dew, earth, and blooming herbs, as though the land itself is breathing. Today, you are not merely walking through history, you are reflecting on a story that stretches across centuries, one of quiet resilience, thoughtful growth, and enduring influence. You have arrived in the final chapter of Tartaria's journey, a moment to consider its legacy and imagine the future that unfolds from its foundations. The civilization you have explored is no longer confined to a single place or time. Its ideas, innovations, and values ripple outward, echoing softly through history and into the lives of those who carry its wisdom forward. Step into a quiet courtyard in the heart of Velmara. You hear the gentle rustle of leaves, the soft trickle of water through stone channels, and the faint hum of birdsong. Imagine standing here centuries ago, alongside scholars and thinkers who recorded observations, refined technologies, and cultivated harmony between people and nature. These records, preserved carefully over generations, form the foundation of Tartaria's enduring legacy. Their contributions are subtle, yet profound. Principles of architecture that blend beauty and function, innovations in agriculture that enhance productivity without harming the land, instruments and tools that inspire creativity, and philosophical teachings that emphasize balance, observation, and reflection. You realize that Tartaria's greatest gift is not material, it is intellectual and spiritual. Their wisdom travels invisibly across time, influencing people and civilizations far beyond the plains they once called home. Imagine yourself wandering through a festival held in a modern city far from Tartaria. You see traditions that echo the past, music that carries patterns first discovered on the Tartarian plains, dances that honor harmony with nature, and artistic motifs inspired by the flowing lines and spirals of ancient designs. Even in distant lands, the ideas of Tartaria have found fertile ground. Communities continue to celebrate observation, patience, and cooperation. Children learn that curiosity is a virtue and that knowledge is best shared rather than hoarded. Families and communities cultivate connections not only to one another, but to the natural world. The essence of Tartaria endures in hearts, minds, and creative expressions that span continents. Now, imagine stepping into a workshop or laboratory today. Engineers, architects, and scientists study natural patterns, create sustainable systems, and design harmonious structures. You notice principles rooted in the Tartarian approach: observation of natural cycles, careful attention to balance, integration of function and beauty, and a respect for the environment. Tartaria's influence is visible not as direct imitation, but as inspiration. The wisdom of the past informs modern thinking, reminding humanity that innovation can coexist with care, that progress can honor tradition, and that knowledge can guide society without dominating it. Picture yourself tracing one of the ancient trade routes in your mind. Caravans once carried goods, stories, and ideas across mountains and plains. Those routes connected Tartaria to distant lands, creating networks of exchange that enriched every community along the way. In the modern world, these principles remain: networks of knowledge, cultural exchange, and mutual respect allow ideas to travel far beyond their origins. Tartaria teaches that connection is not merely practicalite, is transformative. By sharing wisdom, civilizations can grow together, learning from one another while preserving their unique identities. As you walk along a quiet riverbank at sunset, reflect on the subtle, enduring lessons of Tartaria. True strength comes from wisdom, observation, and patience. Progress is most meaningful when it honors the natural world. Communities flourish through cooperation, respect, and shared knowledge. Influence is more lasting when given freely, without force or domination. These lessons are quiet, yet profound. They remind you that a civilization's greatness is measured not only by its achievements, but by its ability to inspire and guide generations yet to come. Imagine yourself walking forward, leaving the plains of Tartaria behind, but carrying its lessons with you. You see a world that continues to change, where technology, culture, and knowledge evolve at a rapid pace. Yet the principles of Tartaria remain relevant: careful observation, balance with nature, shared learning, and harmonious community. You realize that the story of Tartaria is not confined to history books. It is alive in every thoughtful innovation, every act of cooperation, every effort to learn from nature, and every attempt to blend progress with care. The civilization may have existed centuries ago, yet its influence stretches into the present and the future, a quiet beacon guiding those who listen carefully to its wisdom. Stand now beside a gently flowing river as evening falls. The water reflects the sky's soft colors, and the breeze carries the scent of earth and herbs. Imagine the generations of Tartarians who lived here, worked the land, studied the stars, and shared knowledge with one another. And with travelers from distant lands, you feel a connection across time. You realize that every act of observation, every gesture of cooperation, every innovation crafted with care contributes to a legacy far greater than any individual. Tartaria's story is a reminder that civilizations endure not only in monuments, but in ideas, values, and the quiet impact they have on the world. As the stars begin to emerge in the sky, imagine yourself breathing in the calm beauty of the plains. Tartaria's plains, rivers, cities, and skies remain timeless in memory and in influence. The civilization you have walked through, its knowledge, its harmony, its curiosity continues to resonate across centuries. History has its heroes, its triumphs, and its challenges. But Tartaria teaches you something deeper, that the quiet cultivation of wisdom, the careful sharing of knowledge, and the pursuit of harmony leave a mark that endures longer than empires, armies, or material wealth. Let your thoughts drift gently along the rivers, over the plains, and across the cities of Tartaria. Feel the calm strength of a civilization that shaped the world, not through force, but through patience, learning, and enduring grace. And as you rest, carry with you the quiet inspiration of Tartarian eternal reminder that the most profound influence is often the one that whispers softly, yet lasts forever.